Hi, my name is Wiley Joseph Dollinger. Call me Joey. Please like and subscribe. And thanks. Welcome to Students of Truth. Check this out. So, I'm making this video about this new spiritual psychology and alchemy, consciousness, self-awareness, understanding. But this video, what I want to talk about first is attachments, because so many people haven't been taught, don't have a clear understanding of what attachments are and how that works. All right. So check this out. So, you can relate what the Buddha taught. He taught there's suffering in the world. People suffer in life, right? Because of attachments and desires and expectations. So, and this is also the way that addiction is defined. That you need something outside of yourself to make you happy, right? Some people, they have chemical substances, and actually an emotion is a chemical reaction in the brain also. Emotion is also the subconscious trying to communicate with cognition, but needing something outside of ourselves to make us happy, that's defined as addiction. And in America today, Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous, they define it as an incurable disease, right? So there's this new thing called recovery Dharma that teaches this entirely different understanding. Okay, so attachments and how attachments work. So if addiction is that we need something outside of ourselves to make us happy, okay, Buddha says that that's what attachment is also. This is the Eightfold Path and the Noble Truths. But if we need something outside of ourselves to make us happy, so a car or a house or other people, places, or things outside of ourselves to make us happy. So let's say I could, if it's a car, and I get this car and I'm really happy. What happens is, because my happiness or my emotional state, well-being, my emotional happiness is contingent on something outside of myself. Again, addiction, same thing. Attachment, requiring something outside of yourself to make you happy. So people develop these attachments or addictions to a car or a house, because when we're powerless over people, places, and things outside of ourselves, right? So, because our state of well-being, emotional welfare, is contingent on these items outside of ourselves, like the car, when circumstances happen, I'm powerless over the car. So when something happens to the car, then I'm no longer happy. Then I'm upset and devastated, potentially, when people, get upset when things happen, these unexpected things. That's because your state of well-being is contingent on something outside of yourself. Like, I couldn't be happy if something happened to my car unexpectedly, or something happened in my house, or something happened to someone that I love, right? So these are attachments. You require something outside of yourself to make you happy. That's what an attachment is. And we develop desires, and even worse, expectations. Okay, so this new spiritual psychology, self-awareness, our consciousness, evolution of consciousness, or ego, I am consciousness, higher self. So where inspiration comes from, intuition, ideas, absolute idea, imagination, aesthetics, beauty, moral obligation, ethics, our higher aspect. We're actually an immaculate, intrinsic, equally fractionalized aspect of living light that animates our anatomical body. Actually, consciousness. So we're like a piece of light, a drop of light from like this ocean of light. It's this consciousness. Okay, so it's the spark that animates our bodies, consciousness. So people don't know how to identify with this higher aspect, like with the ether and astral bodies. Like, people identify with the thinking mind today. This is where, like with neuro-linguistic programming, and we discovered with clinical hypnosis, and going back to Paracelsus with hypnosis, and the animal magnetism and psychology, and the 19th, 20th, and 21st century, what we've discovered about the subconscious, right, in humans. And and how this actually works, this higher aspect. So you can think of it like this, like consciousness is a piece of awareness. It's an individual piece of awareness, an individual perception, an individual point of view. We come to be human beings so we can learn separation. We can learn what death is. Death is what makes time and life precious, right? It's like this mystery, though, at this stage in our evolution of consciousness, because it's the end of Kali Yuga. People have been so present in the materialistic age. It's the end of Kali Yuga. We've been so far separated from the spiritual higher aspect that people now, which is totally normal, people argue if God is real or not, if God exists. The people that do have a million different views on it. Nobody can agree. Like humanity, our consciousness has been in a state of evolution where we had to develop our I am consciousness, right? Okay. Where this is again the higher self, where inspiration comes from, this droplet of consciousness, droplet of divinity, essentially, right? And so attachments are because even when you go back to like the Vedas, it's what is called Maya or illusion, the physical world, right? You hear people say like we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but we are. Like all these phenomena with reincarnation and NDEs and all these phenomena, this verifiable evidence, right? That's overwhelming, and clairvoyance and clairsentience and all these different phenomena, right? So there's something with the power of perception, the human mind, it's that consciousness we are capable. Think about it, man. Think about, we're one species in hundreds of tens of billions of species on the planet Earth. Look how astronomically different and unique we are. And like, we don't know what our origin story is, really. Like, we have no idea where we came from, but we went from like hunter-gatherers apparently to like splitting radioisotopes and harnessing atomic energy. And then we use that to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You know what I'm saying? Because humanity's only threat, the only threat that humanity has ever faced, the only threat humanity has ever faced is humanity itself. That is an absolute fact, irrefutable fact. We've been so connected with the materialistic plane to develop our individual I am, ego consciousness, that, and again, the end of Kali Yuga, so people argue if God even exists, right? Everybody has different views. So we haven't been taught that we're a piece of awareness. People identify with their thinking mind, with their thoughts, their inner dialogue. They haven't been taught that, like, if someone says, "Who am I?" Well, okay, so I know my name, but my name's not like who I am, right? It's not the, my personality, right? Me, right? The part that perpetuates, actually, right? But I'm not my name. I'm aware of my name, right? I'm not my body. I'm aware of my body. Like, I'm not my hand or my arm or something. I'm aware of my hand and my arm, right? I'm not my thoughts. I'm actually aware of my thoughts. I'm not my feelings, my emotions. I'm aware of my feelings, right? But that's not who I am. And because people haven't been taught that they have a higher aspect that is an aspect of consciousness, awareness, it's aware, subjective from these things, that our thoughts exist objectively to this higher aspect where inspiration and ideas actually come from, that people identify with the thinking mind, and we haven't been taught to concentrate and silence. And like, the evolution of God is, if you go back to the Persian epoch, you've got Zarathustra with Ahura Mazda and Ormuzd that worship celestial objects, right, in the zodiac, but worship the sun against like Angra Mainyu, right? But that was at least light versus dark. And then you go to Egypto-Chaldean, Babylonian. You've got gods like that are like humans with like half humans with like animal alligator head or something, in a pantheon, many gods, right? But still, of course, the celestial objects and Ra and the sun. But and then Greece, Greco-Roman epoch. So Greece was the first civilization to put God into man's image. Like Greece would make statues of these gods, like Mercury and Pluto, and make statues of these gods. But they made the statues that looked like man, like a human being. So Greece, Greco-Roman epoch, was the first time that God was put into man's image, and there was still a pantheon. There was lots of gods. So then, when Christ came, it was the first time that the monotheistic, omnipresent, omnipotent God, progenitor, creator God, was represented in one human being. Right. So that's one of the significant, substantial things about what Christ is, at least the concept of Christ and Christ consciousness, unconditional love. This new understanding of that, but that we're actually aware of our thoughts, but we haven't been taught to concentrate. So people identify with their thinking mind, and we haven't been taught what attachments are, and so people rely. It's normal for people to rely on things outside of themselves for happiness. It doesn't matter if they drink alcohol or not. Man, people don't do no kind of addiction to nothing, but they're addicted or like to their house or their car or whatever it is that their well-being is, because it's an attachment. If something happened to those things, then they would be devastated. And that's what attachments are. Anything outside of yourself, that if something happened to it, you would be upset, then you have an attachment to that. And so that's what Buddha taught. In life, there's suffering and the end of suffering, and attachment and desires and expectations. He taught two truths in two times: the supreme truth and relative truth, and the time, linear time that progresses, always changing from past to future, and then the eternal now. The eternal now, right? There is no past, there is no future, only now, in this moment. The eternal now. So if we can learn these things, right, then they're essential for spiritual psychology, really, and like what we have to like, so that we can evolve, and understand that we decide what is good or bad, and we make things good or bad from our perception, right? Because it's relative. And the reason that we do that is so that we can choose, individually choose to our moral obligation, our moral obligation, our moral obligation. And the real magic of it is alchemy, right? Changing the way that we see things, changing to see obstacles like opportunities, changing the way that we look at something, past traumatic experiences or resentments we have. Change the way we look at the same thing, and instead of seeing it as some kind of problem or some kind of trouble, learn that there's some kind of blessing in disguise. There's some kind of I can look back and say there are no obstacles. I just have opportunities. It's not a problem for me to have to do this thing. It's like I have the opportunity to do this thing. Just changing our perception changes our vibration, right? And learning that we are an infinite state of awareness and not identifying with our thinking mind, so that we're not a slave to our inner dialogue. It takes a little bit of practice, and it's where the breathing exercises and yoga comes from, and mindful meditation, right? And the Kabbalion alchemy and reconciles all paradoxes and reconciles all fragments of occult or religious knowledge that often serve to disgust the beginner in the study. It's like the Kabbalion teaches alchemy. It's the most valuable thing that we're finally able to talk about and learn and teach, like, with people, dude. And it's like, you want to talk about, dude, I'm saying, like, in biogeometry and like conscious technology is like where we're going inevitably, but we have to understand the spiritual psychology and our higher selves so that we can evolve, collectively and all that. Understand we are a drop of the ocean of awareness, equally fractionalized aspect of living light, immaculate intrinsic living light that animates our anatomical body. So I want to talk about that